Welcome once again to Humans TV Africa. You are most welcome to Humans TV Africa. This is your channel where we come here every day and share with you quite a number of things about life, about the world, about the economy, about the politics, about religion, about issues you don't normally hear being talked about. Here we talk about things people fear to talk about. My name is KATO Mukasa, and of course I'm a Ugandan, interested in issues of human rights, interested in promoting freedom of speech, interested in promoting critical thinking. And this is what this TV is all about. It's all about promoting values that are humanistic in a way: equity, diversity, inclusion, critical thinking, self-awareness, and all that. If you ask us, what do we stand for? We stand for the humanist ethos, and of course, we promote those values. We want to talk about issues which other televisions don't talk about, which other social medias don't talk about. You only find them here. Now, if you want to follow us, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's no way you can promote us by not subscribing. Please, we need that subscription. Look at that screen. There is subscription. Please look for Humans TV Africa and please do subscribe. Press that button, subscribe, but also write to us. Write to us to criticize us. We welcome criticisms. Say you told a lie here in this program. Therefore, write to us and criticize us. But also write to us and advise us. But also write to us and say, I want to be part of your program. But also write to us and say, I want to make a donation to your TV. Remember, we are a charity. We are a non-governmental organization. We don't work for profit. We don't get salaries, yet you see us here every day. We work as a charity. We are not paid a salary. We are not paid thing that actually someone would expect to get. But of course, we have well wishers who are helping us to have the airtime, to have the data, and we appreciate that kind of contribution they give us to be able to see us today. We are able to be here because there are people behind us who give us some money to be able to run these shows. But of course, we need more help. Of course, we need to open up more channels. First of all, in Africa, so far we have channels in Uganda. Today we are adding our 4th studio in Uganda. We had 3 studios, now we're going to be adding a 4th studio in Uganda. We have 2 studios in Nigeria. We have 1 studio in Zambia. We have 1 studio in Zimbabwe. We have 2 studios in Kenya. And today you saw our 2nd studio in Kenya in action. So we are growing from strength to strength, and we want to continue opening up studios. We are planning to open up a studio in Tanzania very soon. We're opening up a studio in Rwanda, in Egypt, in South Africa, and we can continue to grow our wings, spreading throughout Africa. I want to open up these studios where we can see live interviews from the streets of many cities in Africa and from the villages of many villages in Africa. We want to hear from people right from the grassroots: farmers, traders, politicians, business people, entrepreneurs, successful people, failures, of course, who have failed in business, sharing their kind of testimonies. You want to hear from all these people. You have done a business and it has failed. You have a lesson to tell. You have a lesson to share. You have done a business and you have succeeded. You have a lesson to share. Now, you are going to be interviewing all these people right on Humanist TV Africa. I repeat, if you want to write to us, give us a donation. If you want to write to us, advise us on how to do things better. If you want to write to us and say, I want to be part of you, that's the email, Humanist TV Africa at proton.me. Humanist TV Africa at proton.me. The person in the studios today doing the production is Dennis Bongole, who's based in Uganda. Remember, we are a virtual TV. We are a virtual TV. We exist everywhere. You are going to find us in Europe. You're going to find us in the US. You're going to find us in Asia. And of course, you're going to find us in Africa. We are a virtual TV. One of the first of its kind, where we have a virtual studios, but also physical studios. We are virtual, yes, but also physical. We are present in Ghana. We are present in Nigeria. We are present in Uganda, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Kenya. We are present physically. So we are virtual, but also physical. We present our people there. We have interviewers, we have news anchors, we have people in those countries. Remember, as humanists, we are spread throughout the world. Now, we want to use the network of humanism in Asia. We shall have a studio in, say, Malaysia. We shall have a studio, say, in Singapore, because we have networks there. We are going to make it happen. But the name will remain Humanist TV Africa. Yet, we shall have studios in Singapore, we shall have studios in Malaysia, because we have our team right there. Now, having said that, I want to welcome you to KATO and the Gang. And of course, today in a special program, we are going to be introducing a team member, Birimye Peter Clever, who is a Ugandan. Of course, I've worked with him. He's an administrator and is a humanist celebrant. Of course, I've been involved in teaching humanist celebrants for some good years. And is a man with a master's degree in administration. So he's going to be helping to put some people in order, maybe as an administrator or who knows management. Is going to help us to handle Nandip Bongfa, the man who believes that culture is spring to everything. We are going to beat Nandip every time he raises his head to speak something, and we are going to beat him using technicalities. We are going to be fighting Nandip on this station until we put him in the line. That was the joke. Anyway, we are here. It's a team. Today, the gang is a team of 4. Of course, the 5th one is going to be joining. We are me, KATO Mukasa, Ugandan. Of course, we have Nandip Bongfa from Nigeria, a man with a hoodie. You can see he has a banner, Humanist TV Africa, Nigeria, Abuja. And of course, we have that's Nana. That's Nandip Bongfa from Ghana. Of course, we have Sierra Leone, represented by none other than Mambo Emmanuel. Mambo Emmanuel is from Sierra Leone, is representing there. Of course, we have Birimye Peter Clever from Uganda. Now, we are the team, the gang today, and we're going to be discussing politics, economics, religion. But of course, today, we are having a question before us. Do African cultural traditions promote corruption? I say yes. Nandip says no. That's why I always fight with Nandip. Do African cultural traditions promote corruption? I say 101% yes. In fact, 100% is even small. I say 1000% yes. Do African cultural traditions promote corruption? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Nandip is going to disagree with me, and I'm going to challenge him on that. Yes, your traditional practices actually promote corruption. Nandip, you already said that the Europeans brought corruption in Africa. No, your ancestors were corrupt too. So I'll begin on that note. And I'm going to be fighting with Nandip. Of course, others are going to join their sides. But for me, I know my side as well is very clear. I'm always here to fight Nandip in a battle of wits. I call it a battle of wits. We exchange ideas. We never agree on anything much of the time. Now, let me start with just one point. And once I finish, I'll go to Nandip to give his view. Then we shall roll the ball. Now, why do I say that our traditions actually are corrupt? Some of them are corrupt. Our practices are corrupt and actually promote corruption. Now, let us look at Africa in terms of our religiosity. Africa is a continent with the most hopeless religious people. Hope it can make a good quotation. It's the continent with the most hopeless religious people. That is Africa. One of the great anthropologists to come out of Africa is a man called John Mbiti. When I was studying anthropology at Mackay University, in fact, I great crushed anthropology because I was unable to do economics, but I was a wanderer. I used to want to understand philosophy, anthropology. So I used to attend anthropology classes, get crushing. This is where I met a lecturer who talked about John Mbiti, a Kenyan scholar and anthropologist who said that Black people, Africans, are notoriously religious. I remember that quotation. Black people, Africans, are notoriously religious. That is an anthropologist from Kenya, one of the best in the world, one of the best in Africa. It's called John Mbiti. Now, I want to help John Mbiti, who is dead, and I add that Africans are hopelessly, stupidly, notoriously religious. I've even added hopeless, stupidly, notoriously religious. Now, these are Black people, and I'm Black. Look at me. I'm Black. So don't say I hate myself. I know John Mbiti was what, but I've even helped him to say we are hopelessly, stupidly, religiously, notoriously religious. We are so damn religious. Why? Before the coming of the colonialists, I normally call them thieves. I call colonizers thieves because they were thieves. I have no kind words for colonizers, by the way. They were thieves. So these thieves, before they came to Africa, they found us with our gods. My name is from a god. I've been saying that. Mokasa is a god. Bilimie there knows much of my tradition than actually myself because I've been teaching it. Now, they found us with our gods, but Nandip, pay attention because we want to speak next after me. Now, when they found us with our gods, how did we pray to our gods, Nandip? We pray to our gods by bribing gods. And even the thieving colonialists brought a religion from the Romans, which was exactly using the same method like our own traditional religions. They bribe a god through a method they call prayers. So the thieves who brought Christianity and Islam, also the method of prayer is called, the method of bribing God is called prayer. Prayer is a corrupt way of bribing a God to give you what you desire. I'll repeat it. This is KATO Mukasa speaking. Prayer is a form of bribery, is a form of corruption to tell a God to give you what you desire. Now, Africans were so corrupt that they had to corrupt their hopeless, stupid gods by doing what? By sacrificing animals, by taking harvests, by doing incarnations and prayers. All of you know Africans were prayer warriors. Africans were prayer warriors. They used to go to the mountains, to the seas, to the waters, and pray. Remember my definition of prayers, Nandipu? A prayer is a form of bribery you make to appease a God, a hopeless, stupid God, to give you what you want, yet that God already knows what you want. That's my definition of a prayer. Now, Who is corrupt? Black people are corrupt naturally through prayers. And it doesn't end there. Even the Caucasians are corrupt. How? Through prayer. Even Asians are corrupt. Whoever uses a prayer as an appeal, as a token, as a weapon to appease a given God, to me, I call a prayer a form of corruption. So that one is closed, case number one. Africans, black people like me, taking cows and goats and hens to who? To their ancestors. To do what? To give them favors. Corruption. 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 Have I answered you? That is the first form of corruption. The second form of corruption I'm going to give you, and I shut my mouth completely, though I have so many forms, is about our kingdoms. Our kingdoms. And the way we treat chiefs and the way we treat kings. A king is a very hopeless way of managing people. In fact, kingdoms are corrupt, all of them in the world. I repeat this one. I'm not a monarchist. I always say that. I'm a Republican. I don't believe in kingdoms. I don't believe in one man ruling me by virtue of their birth. I have refused that. I may accept you to rule me, but for you to tax me, for you to tell me what to do, because you were born by a man who was born by a man who was a royal, excuse me. So whereas I don't have a quarrel with kingdoms, they can stay, I don't value their contribution in my life. So me, I'm not a monarchist, I am a Republican. Now, kingdoms, all of them were built on corruption. All of them were built on corruption. And I'm going to show you how. Initially, how did the kings rise? One man who was the strongest on the battlefield became the king. A man who would kill the most became the king. I'll just give you an example of the Vikings. If you watch the Vikings, you will see how the Norwegians would get a king. If you think you're the best swordsman, we go to the field and we fight to the death. Whoever survives becomes the king. That was the Vikings. Vikings replaced it with Norwegians. The Vikings were terrible that they invaded UK, England by then, and took it over at one point. They were best swordsmen, best fighters from Norway. But for them to decide who rules them, you get the best swordsman, the best man in using a sword, the best fighter. You get another best fighter. You go to the field, people surround it and make a stadium. You fight. Whoever remains alive becomes the king. Now, how would you corrupt a king? If you want a position of authority, you give a king your daughters. In our hopeless tradition of the Bagana, they say that a king is Sabasajya, and they hear me. What does it mean? That is the only man among men. I said, excuse me, that all men in that kingdom are below this one man. For them, they are not actually, they are like half men, they are like quarter men. Now, this man called the king in my kingdom has a right initially to marry every woman he chooses. He can come and say, Nandip, can you give me your wife a night? Nandip, can you give me your wife a night? And we say, yes, sir, she's here. Please come and have fun. Then as the king is going, you say, sir, also take my daughter. Please, let her be your 100th wife. Because the king in my hopeless kingdom was the owner of all women. That is corruption. And he was given women as a token, as a gift. He had free access to sex with every woman in the kingdom. And the people would freely give them their wives to corrupt him, to do what? To give them land. I will tell this example. My grandfather, my great grandfather, was a chief. They remember me knowing the history of my family. Was a chief and was given large pieces of land. I don't know how he got it, but I'm telling you that my great grandfather was a chief with lots of land. From who? From the king. So I tell you that at one point, people had to bribe the king by whatever means to give them favors. And when my great grandfather was a chief, he was being given gifts of hens and cows, became too rich. Because how do you get land from Chinanga? You bribe him. That is corruption. I will stop there. Nandip, you black people have a history in corruption. We are corrupt. Don't even dare to say Europeans are corrupt alone. We are in this thing together. Where have you gone, Nandip? Come back and defend your traditions. Anyway, that was it. I'm done with my submission. I have so many grounds I can give. I'm done with it. Let me first of all go to Mambo, because Mambo is more likely to disappear, to hear from Mambo. I've given my analysis. I've just given you a summary because I have so much I can talk about hopeless African traditions. I have a full book I can talk about. Since we are back, Nandip, continue. Please tell me how you people in Africa we are not corrupt and everyone else was corrupt. I'm telling you, you were corrupt. You are saying no.
You are saying no.
Say it.
Say it. Thank you so much, Comrade Katu, for this wonderful topic. Do African cultural tradition support corruption? I am against you. The answer is no. African cultural tradition never support corruption. Corruption is all about the thinking of mind. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Nandip Andrew Bongfa. Bongfa is my grandfather's name. I'm a humanist, an atheist, a member of board of trustee of Humanist Association of Nigeria. I'm a humanist celebrant, also in Nigeria. So, the discussion today about cultural and traditional support corruption, I'm disagreeing with Comrade Katu in the sense that tradition and culture never support corruption. Now, let's look at African democracy today. You will discover that the other time, that is last month, November, everyone, like in Uganda, Katu talked about the corruption that is happening in Uganda is so massive. The same thing with Mabu. He talks about the corruption in Sierra Leone democracy is so massive, and also Nana in Ghana. And if you go to Kenya, if we go to other African countries, it's all about what? Democracy. Democracy is all about what? Corruption. I you understand. So, in swearing in of this elective representative, whether it's the president, the governor, the House of Reps, or the local government chairman or councillor, do you know what they use for swearing in? Art. And the Quran, also the most corrupted book on earth. Now, let them use the horn of a cow, the tail of an animal, or a festive things about tradition to swearing in. They will never do that. Because why? There is power. And when they do that, and when they try to steal money from the people, or to divert money or any other resources to themselves, they will be what? End up death. So they try kind of to demonize the traditional and cultural beliefs, and that's what Comrade KATO is supporting them. He didn't grab this thing that is going on. You have never seen an elected officials swearing in with our traditional beliefs or cultural belief. No, it's the corrupt Bible, the corrupt Quran. That's why Africa, they will never progress if we don't use our traditional aspect of doing things to sow in our elected Democrat members. We continue to be corrupt because there is no powers in those things. There's none. But if our ancestors, they are kind of a clean people, they are honest, they are pure people that worship the traditional ways of doing things. They are pure. Now, let me give you an example according to our traditional Tarok traditional belief. If you are being kind of be a leader of a kind of a clan traditionally, and you sow in, and then you go to the enclaves or the groove, and then you involve yourself, maybe you receive something that is not even clean or pure or genuine. Honestly, you will not reach 2 years or 1 year or 3 months. You will get sick and you will do what? Died. That's why the politicians every politician that you see them in Africa, they are afraid of the traditional or cultural belief. In constitution, check the Ghana constitution, check the Sierra Leone constitution, check the Uganda constitution, you will never see a traditional aspect of what? Swearing in cultural way, because they know that there is power in those things. So they believe in the Christians lie book called Bible and the Muslim lie book called what? The Quran. Let's call a spade. Let us be honest with ourselves. If Africa practice real cultural and traditional way of doing things, we will not be suffering. KATO will not be complaining that there's corruption in Uganda. And Mabu will not be complaining there's a corruption in Sierra Leone. Nana will not be complaining of there's corruption in Ghana and other Kenya and all that. Let's do things natural, because Christianity and Islam, they are artificial. They are all based on what? Lies, deceit, and fraud. Why will we be, taking them as something else? We should be supporting the African cultural, tradition. Africa cultural tradition never promote corruption in any way. Any person that says that person doesn't know anything about the cultural and tradition of the African people. That's why you cannot find anything about tradition and culture in democracy. That's why we argue with Comrade KATO last month that democracy is not meant for Africans. I says that. Yes, democracy is not meant for Africans. Democracy is meant for the European people. They imported this thing to us and they disestablish our kind of thinking and orientation. Thank you. I have to stop here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to punch you, but I was like, you are very far away from me. Now, having said that, I'm going to punch you again in the battle of which. Let me take this battle to Sierra Leone, because it's about to disappear. We know his tactics. It's runs away from studio. Sierra Leone first. Mambo.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, what I would say about this is that before this time, there was actually a little corrupt practice in the African tradition. A little. It was there, but very little. But now the African tradition or culture, everything is corrupt. Before this time, if something gets missing in a village, you will see they will say, let's go and find out through the African way. and you will see that they will actually find out the truth about what is missing or whatever that happens. But now, because of the love of money, the African tradition is actually corrupt, or the African culture is now, everything is now corrupt because of the love of money. So, like what I'm saying is the the particular tradition now that Africa is practicing, or the culture, is actually corrupt, because being that like what I was saying the other day, being that I will be forced to join a tradition or a society that I am not willing to join, that is corruption, because I am not willing. It is you force me to be part of it, and then you force me to take an oath that whatever I see that is happening in that bush, or in the tradition, or in the culture, or in whatever, that I will not say it outside. I should not say it. That is corruption. Because of the practice, you know that is a very bad practice. So you will not want me to come and, I mean, to say it outside. So you force me to take an oath, that I should not say it outside. That is corruption. And I have never seen a king or a chief actually active in development in his kingdom or within his local environment. Like in my country, we actually have paramount chiefs. They are in charge of chiefdoms, and I've never seen my paramount chief in my chiefdom build even one bridge in his community. I have not seen it yet. But you see them collect money on daily basis. So where are those money going? They just collect this money, and then they use it to develop themselves or to enrich themselves in a corrupt way. But they will never partake in any developmental activity within their local environment. This is corruption. And again, you see them, they even put up gates like checkpoints just to collect tax, local tax. They call it local tax. But you will never see where those local tax, where the money is going. And then they will sit down and wait for the government to develop their chiefdoms. They will sit and wait for a government to build a marketplace. They will sit and wait for government to build roads, to build bridges or culverts. But they are collecting tax, a local tax. They are collecting money from people, but they will never invest this money to develop their local community. So I see it as corruption. And even before this time, those like if something is missing in my house, let me say I'll go to a traditional person and I'll say, okay, please go and find out for me. Let's see. And now these people are being corrupted, because there are some people. If I actually stole a cow, and then I know they are going to investigate this cow issue to KATO, I'll quickly run to KATO, because I know this cow cost like 50 shillings. I will simply run to KATO and give KATO 20 shillings and say, please, I don't want them to know that this is actually what I did. If I know it's true, if I know it's going to work, I'll go and bribe KATO. I'll go and corrupt KATO. And then KATO is going to change the whole story. Maybe KATO will even say the cow was stolen by a stranger, just because KATO do not actually want to point me out that I stole the cow. So this is how our African tradition or our African culture have been corrupt. And also the politicians. The politicians are also using this to campaign, like I was saying the last time. They use our African chiefs, our African leaders, our African society, culture for their own selfish gain. Through which, through money, like they come and give you money and say support. Like our last election, our paramount, you will find out that a lot of paramount chiefs were being corrupt. The government, I mean, the leader of any political party could just call them and say, I really want you to support my party. And then they'll give them money. Could you believe it? They were actually suppressing the opposition party, not to even campaign within their chiefdoms or their kingdoms, because they have taken money from the other party or from the ruling party. That is how corrupt our chiefs are, or our kings are. So the African tradition now is totally corrupt. The African culture is now totally corrupt. Before, our ancestors, maybe they were not that too corrupt because the issue of money was not that too much. But now, because of the love of money, everything is corrupt. Everything is totally corrupt. So, Nandip, to say this, the African tradition or the culture is now 100% corrupt because everybody is looking for money to enrich himself. So our tradition have been corrupt, both politically, in the traditional system, in our environment, even by marrying so many wives, depriving others because you are a king, because you are a chief. That is corruption. How will you marry 4 wives? And then Emmanuel is here without a wife because you have money. So you corrupt the whole system. So everything, KATO, is corrupt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Nandip, you see, we are nailing you. So far it's 2-1. So far it's 2-1. Let us see whether we can get a sympathizer from Birimie. Birimie, it is 2-1. Us against Nandip. You better join us or you lose with Nandip. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kato Mukasa, Comrade Nandip, and Emmanuel Mambu. I'm privileged to have done history as well as doing philosophy. One, just by saying, if you look from a historical perspective, truth is, from history, we see that when the colonialists came into Africa, the first thing they did was to bribe Africans. For example, are you aware that the colonialists brought mirror, they brought kanzus as dresses in exchange for slaves? They were corrupting the local chiefs, they were corrupting the kings in exchange for human beings. But if you look at the African cultural practices, I'll go into that and then come back into the systems after colonization. One, truth is, like Emmanuel said, some African cultural practices support or supported corruption. For example, for us when we are growing up, they told us that before you take a cup of water, you must pour some water down. That's called libation. That you must bribe your ancestors, your grandees, to ensure that you can take your water without any problem. Can you imagine that you power to the grandees, you give the ancestors, then you can take the water? So that itself was the form of trying to show that you are corrupting the ancestors, not to do harm on you. Another thing, through initiation ceremonies, some ceremonies themselves also involved elements of corruption, because they would even tell the young people that in order for you not to get a problem, you must do this first. So if you create a situation whereby someone must do something first in order for that person to get something, that is bribery, that is corruption. So in those practices, like for example, the beer parties, ceremonies of initiation, gallows will do certain things to avoid getting harm. So in elements of culture, we see an element of corruption. The same case with the kings, as they have said. Many of the kings were good at amassing wealth, collecting properties, getting items, but they were doing nothing. So in that way, as leaders, they were indirectly supporting corruption. But then, KATO, we are having a look at the new systems, especially the love for money. I'll go into an example of how the new governance systems are exaggerating and trying to make corruption look something to move with in day-to-day life. For example, when the colonialists they got collaborators. And these collaborators, some of them were given bicycles, others were given suits, others were given coats. And in doing so, they were collaborating with them, bribing them to take African land. They were bribing them to take African raw materials. They were bribing them to take Africa's minerals. So in the new systems called the post-colonial era, the love for money ignited the lust and the greed. And that's why people today are extremely corrupt, because they are loving money. The systems in place are also supporting the very cause. Another thing, for example, if you look at like in politics today, these days in almost all African countries, even the politicians themselves are very much aware that the only way you can win an election is by corrupting people and bribing people. And surprisingly, even the people themselves, after giving a good speech, you go to people in Nigeria, miss them, you are going to give them stuff, they tell you, what are you giving us before we vote for you? So you are looking at this as something which is now becoming part of our governance, our politics. It's very unfortunate that even in schools, for to become a head prefect, if you have a child to become a head prefect, you buy sweets, you give to your child, and this child take this to win being a head prefect. So if you begin by instilling such in these young ones, what will happen if they're going to run for being a member of parliament? So we are nurturing, we are trying to build the generation by bribing them, even supporting them, which is very unfortunate. Therefore, I would say that in African culture, some practices, for example, I will give you a story. We are reading a story of the hair, that the hair, one time the hair, there was a beautiful lady, and the hair was to marry this beautiful lady. And what happened? Someone take this beautiful lady, you were supposed to go to water. Do you know what happened? The hair was given water in a pot. People were very many, so the hair was moving, telling people, I'm going to take this water, please. I die, nothing to do, because I need this beautiful wife. The hair moved around all people. By the time the hair finished moving around, the water was already cold. And that's one way how the hair managed to win this beautiful lady. So some practice in African culture, we believe they supported corruption. But I would say it became worse. It went into the extreme when we reached a level of scamming, love for money coming in, and the new government systems. Because believe me, politics itself now is full of corrupt people, is full of greedy people. To go to US, people are corrupting. To go in conferences, you pay, you go, you keep. So everything is now becoming messy. Therefore, in culture there are some corruption, but today it is becoming worse. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Birimiye.
Growing here and there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Birimiye. Of course, we know the network is bad. The network is bad in much of Africa, and of course, we are excusing everyone. In fact, no one must apologize for the network. No one must apologize for the network. It's bad in Africa. Even in the UK, it's becoming a bit bad, but because of the weather. So it must be really worse in Africa. So no one should be apologizing for getting off and on, because all of us appreciate the network is bad. Now, having said that, Nandip, I think you are getting fixed in every show. We are fixing you. In fact, in 1 month, we would have fixed you out of your fixation of traditionalism. We are going to fix you until we welcome you to the modern era and you leave this hopelessness of traditionalism. Now, having said that, let me speak for 3 minutes, then you speak. Number one, Nandip, you are wrong to say that Africans were never corrupt, but by giving them a Bible and the Quran, they became corrupt. Because the Bible and the Quran are books of corruption. My friend, where have you been? The Bible is not even 100 years old in Africa. If it's too old anyway, it may be 80 years old in some countries, 90 years, 100 maybe in some countries, but not too old. Because the recent thing they are bought in Africa. But I can tell you, your ancestors sold their own people into slavery. Did you know that? I'll repeat it for you. Your greedy Tarok ancestors, greedy, hopeless, deceitful Tarok ancestors sold your ancestors into slavery by merely accepting a mirror. How hopeless were your ancestors? Accepting a mirror and a piece of cloth and spices to cook food. Come on, curry powder, spices, hopeless ancestors. Now, what is corruption, Nandip? Corruption is two-way. When I was studying law to become an advocate, I was being trained to defend the corrupt. I should say this on camera. When I was being trained as a lawyer, I was also trained to defend the corrupt. I'll repeat it for you. I was also trained to defend the corrupt. Now, to beat a corrupt person, you must have evidence. That's why I'm telling you, I was trained to defend the corrupt until you prove them beyond reasonable doubt. Now, who is a corrupt person? Nandip, any person who runs a public office, any person who runs a public institution is liable if A, they receive money by fraud, by misrepresentation, by pretenses, in any dishonest way. Number two, if they accept gifts. Even a mere giving of a gift to a judge. If I was a judge in Uganda or a magistrate grade 1, because me, I qualify to be a magistrate grade 1, I qualify to be a magistrate, at least a magistrate by my level of training now. If I was a magistrate in Uganda and Nandip has a son who is being arrested for corruption or whatever case, for defilement, whatever case, and Nandip is being my OB, comes at my home, tomorrow I'm deciding this case, and brings me a cow. I'm tomorrow deciding a case involving Nandip's son. But Nandip is on my birthday today giving me a present of a cow. I'm corrupt. I am a corrupt judge. So corruption doesn't involve only money, but also exchange of gifts, including sex.
Yes.
I repeat it for you, including sex. If I was in a case against a party and they send me a beautiful girl from that family, I'm the lawyer, I'm a public defender, and I have sex with that beautiful girl, they are corrupting my psyche to disorganize the case. So corruption, people think it's about money. No, it's beyond money. Corruption goes hand in hand with any dubious, fraudulent conduct. Now, I want you to understand corruption properly. It's beyond money. It's beyond politics. A person who works as a traffic officer who asks for a bribe is corrupt. But also the giver of the bribe is corrupt. Can I tell you how many police officers have corrupted? Me, I have corrupted on the road. I'm telling you this because I'm driving a second-hand car. I've never driven a brand new car in my life. And whenever I'm driving my car, these hungry, hopeless policemen in Uganda and women ask me for money. Or they are going to give me a fine of, say, 50 pounds. And someone is asking me for only 10 pounds. Now, between 10 pounds and 50 pounds of a fine, who do you choose? I pick the 10 pounds equivalent and I give a woman who's hungry on the road and she lets me go with my bad tires. corruption. So it means that even me, the giver of the money, I'm corrupt. It's not only the police officer who is corrupt. Now I'm even extending it to me, the giver of the money. So corruption involves public officials, but also the giver is corrupt as the receiver. Now, Nandip, avoid these hopeless ways of defending your Tarok tradition. You guys have been corrupt from your inside of your mother's tummies. We have been very corrupt as babies. That's why you always bribe your mothers by crying. You are corrupt babies. So, having said that, corruption is part of us. Don't tag it to the Europeans. No, they found your damn hopeless ancestors corrupt. As Peter said, they only made it worse by bringing in the money element. They only made it worse. The Europeans only made our corruption worse, but we are corrupt already. We are very corrupt. So Nandip, please give your defense in 3 minutes or 4. Then the rest are going to give their defense in 2 minutes, and then we close.
Thank you, Comrade KATO. Thank you, Mabu and Mr. Peter. You know, we are missing of the point here. We are talking about the cultural and tradition that maybe promote what corruption. And the way, you know, KATO, you are a lawyer. You know, you try to kind of confuse me, but I have to stand on my point. I cannot follow you. You know, you confuse my brain, but still, African culture and tradition, they are not corrupt. Yes, in the sense that when you try that, you have to die. That's the truth, because we have a way of, you know, taking out corrupt people in the African tradition and culture. I don't know of Uganda, but in Nigeria and Tarok, we know when you are a corrupt, a traditionalist, or a corrupt chief, or a corrupt king, and you involve in that, you will not live long. In my first speech, I talked about that. So, and Mabu, Mr. Peter, and Comrade KATO came and tried kind of to confuse me. No, I have to stand on my talk that African tradition, because you talked about slavery. In our own part, in the that is central Nigeria, we don't even know about anything about what you call slave trade. We don't know, because I'm talking about the recent development about the politics here. That is democracy. You know, in our olden days, our ancestors, there is nothing like about our culture and tradition is fine. Now, and the people knows about the danger of involving in corruption in tradition and culture when democracy came in. So they don't want to kind of involve tradition and culture into democracy. That's why they use Bible and the Quran, which is not ineffective recently. Yes, Bible and the Quran, they are ineffective, but use our traditional aspect of doing things in modern days democracy, and you swear, and you went and steal public money, and went and embezzle, and went and involved in shady deals, and you use the tradition and culture way of swearing in, you must not survive. I'm telling you this. I don't know about your country, that is Sierra Leone. I don't know about Ghana. I don't know about Uganda. I don't know about Kenya, but in Nigeria or Tarok, yes, because they are afraid. Christianity and Islam, they are completely fake. Recently,
we stop you there.
And
We stop you there.
Eh?
Sir, your time is over.
Yes,
we have 6 minutes to go. Thank you so much, sir. Your time is over. We are going to conclude.
I've made my.
You have made your point. Nandip, you are off the mic. You're off the mic.
Yes. Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, but you have made your point and you are running short of time. Your time is over.
Just want to conclude. I just want to conclude. I'm just want to conclude. 1 minute, comrade, please. 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm a defender of the African tradition and culture. Nandip Bonfa.
We shall destroy with your culture and African traditions. Now, let us conclude with Mambo. Mambo, what's your take? 2 minutes.
Yeah, Nandi, please, you will not survive this because everything about Africa tradition is corrupt. Everything is corrupt. Even the way they initiate is being corrupt. You know, with time, in fact, to define corruption as the way we define human rights. Because in Africa now we are being born with corruption. There's only few
Mambo, the
the
network is
system
disturbing you.
the system, the way the African system is now, it's like we are going to define corruption as something being born with. Like they give back to you in a everything is corrupt. Even our parents are corrupt. Because maybe like let's say the father has love for the son than the daughter. Corruption. And when something is wrong in the home, you see the father will like try to call the son, secretly try to encourage the son, forgetting the other children. That is corruption. So everything in Africa is corrupt because we are now inheriting corruption from our parents, from our system, from our governance system, from our tradition. So Nandip, don't fight it. Everything is in Africa is corrupt. So I mean, we are inheriting corruption now in Africa. Our tradition, our culture, our society, our governance system, our democracy, everything is corrupt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Mambo from Sarion. Peter, what's your conclusion on this?
Thank you so much, Comrade KATO Mukasa. I want to give Comrade Nadip something very simple. I studied about African traditional religion, and I discovered that even when you wanted to be blessed by the gods or the ancestors, you had to offer sacrifices. If you wanted to get a child, if you are barren, you had to offer sacrifices. That means by doing so, they were creating a situation that before you get something, you must give in something. Even those practices of sacrificing ABC are forms of corruption. And people, even deep down in the African traditional setup, everything is given. You give this, they tell you to give this. In the communities, for example, if you are supposed to become maybe a chief, a local chief, the king or those chiefs, you would give in something, or you give in your daughter, or you give a child, or you give in your children to go and maybe for war or for those conquering places. Then they give you land. So deep down the practice of Africans, the element of corruption is there. As I conclude, I want to say, in our practices as Africans, tendencies of corruption were there. It only got worse with the coming of money, because the medium of exchange made the situation worse. But we must agree that our practice as Africans enhance and support corruption. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Nandip, we are itching. 1 minute for you.
Comrade Peter, that is not corruption. If you are giving a wife, a land, and everything, it's not corruption. It's called what? Appreciation. That person is appreciating you, not corruption. Thank you.
Nandip, you are corrupt. I put it to you as a lawyer that you are corrupt, and I will prosecute you in the courts of public interest for being corrupt and for promoting corruption on TV. How dare you say that for someone to be given a woman is a token of appreciation? That's corruption. That is someone in the public office. Nandip, I'm going to prosecute you for corruption. You are corrupt. You are promoting corruption on a national TV. Nandip, stop promoting corruption. I'm going to take you to courts of law for promoting naked corruption. Naked corruption. Nandip, stop being corrupt. Anyway, having said that, it was a good show. Nandip, tomorrow we are going to discuss your democracy versus the Western democracy. Which way? Because we already said that African democracy was the best. Nandip, prepare tomorrow to tell us how your hopeless democracy was the best. And then I will tell you how the democracy of the thieves was also a bit good. Remember, I called them the thieves. So let us compare the democracy of the thieves who came to steal everything from us and your own democracy. Which was the best form of democracy? Tomorrow, you are not speaking again. You are not speaking again. You are speaking tomorrow. It's democracy. Come and tell us whether your democracy was the best. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much for the show. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you so much for the show.
Yeah.